Diamond specialist here. Had this woman come in to get her ring cleaned and polished that was not from my privately owned business. Told her if she wanted it cleaned I would need to take it in the back to the high-pressure steam cleaner to get all the junk out of it, lotions, conditioners, makeup, daily wear and tear blah blah blah. Said she was perfectly fine with that as I told her it could take up a few minutes. Come back out with a brand new looking engagement ring, because it was actually clean. Automatically asks for a jeweler's loupe to inspect her diamond. Graciously hand her one and said no problem. Here starts the thorough inspection of her diamond. Huff and puff multiple times, flip the hair, turn the loupe around, there is no difference between sides on the jeweler's loupe. I ask her if she would like me to show her how to use the loupe. She snaps at me and says clearly she knows how to use one. She absolutely did not. Distance from the eye to loupe is about 1 inch, distance from the loupe to piece is another inch, give or take your depth perception. You switched my diamond, she proclaimed. I continued to say excuse me? She claimed I switched out her diamond, to which I'm baffled at this point. Demanding to speak to authority, I said you're speaking to one. Saying it looks wrong and this wasn't the diamond she purchased, so on and so forth. Tried reasoning with her until I had to get very blunt. I'm assuming you don't know how this works, for me to switch out a diamond, and a marquise shape at that. I would have had to know your exact dimensions of the diamond before you came in here. Your diamond isn't from here, but I said I would clean it for free for you. Now you're accusing me of switching out your diamond within 2-3 minutes when it would have taken me at least 10 minutes to even try and find a stone that had your same exact dimensions. Because if it didn't I would have had to change the head of your diamond to hold a different sized stone, which requires a jeweler's torch, putting on a new one, and then cleaning your ring to perfection to dip into the rhodium. All of that alone would have taken me a solid 45 minutes. Rhodium is $20,000 plus per ounce right now, and if you think I'm going to contaminate a batch of rhodium on your ring to maybe profit $1,000 on switching out your stone is absurd. Kindly take your ring back to where you bought it from to have them confirm with you that indeed it's still your diamond, and do not ask for me to service your ring ever again. She huffed and puffed and walked out. Got a call later from her husband apologizing, saying that he heard the story and it was her diamond. Educate yourself before you accuse a professional of theft, bitch. Edit. Thank you for correcting my spelling. My phone auto-corrected it and I was a couple glasses of wine deep to notice lol. I was working the register in the garden area and one of the 90-plus-degree days a few weeks ago. Not a lot of people come through the area, they grab their plants and head straight back inside. Don't blame them, I would too if I could, since all I had was a fan and water. This little old lady walks up and I start ringing her out. She starts talking to me about her day, tone is neutral, and we move on to ringing and payment. And that's when she hits me with this. Lady, no one came to help me with the soil. Me, they didn't. Lady, I had to call one of your workers to put it in my cart. Me, internal thoughts, isn't that the same thing? He was helping another customer lift something into their car. Me, oh, I'm sorry about that. He's been a bit busy helping out people today and cleaning up. Lady, gives me a long, measured look. What do I get? Me, sees where this is leading. Nothing? If you want to talk to a manager you're free to, but they're inside. Lady, stands there contemplating my answer as I finish ringing her stuff and place it in her cart. Lady, can I have a discount? Me? No? Lady, but I had to wait in this heat. Me, I can't give you a discount for that reason. Lady, looks over her plant critically. What about that plant? Are any of these on sale? Me, no. Lady, thinks a little longer. Some of these leaves are falling out. Makes vague motion to plant. Me, getting annoyed at this point. Ma'am, they're plants. If you want to pick out another one that's fine, but leaves can get knocked off if they're being moved around. It's not going to hurt the plant unless you're ripping them out by the fistful. Lady, gives me a dirty look before paying. Once she's done paying she continued to stand there staring at me. I just stared back. At this point I'm not sure if she was waiting for me to cave or was trying to establish some kind of tactic to intimidate me. But my mindset at this point was I was paid to be there, she wasn't. Lady, well, can I get a free water? Points at the water bottles. Me, that's it, kid gloves are off. No, we don't give out free water. You're welcome to buy one, but I'm not giving it to you. Lady, how much are they? Me, $2 and some change. The lady at this point scoffed and shook her head again, continuing to gaze at me. She made another comment I can't remember, but at this point I just greeted her with silence. And no, it wasn't the mature thing to do, but I think she even realized at this point she was just playing for time to annoy me. I then sat back down at the register, grabbed the book I'd been reading, and went back to it since there really wasn't much more I could do for myself or her. Eventually she left, making another comment about me being mean for not giving her a free water bottle as she made her way to her car. Not super exciting, just tiring. One day, the entire parking lot was covered in a cloud of heavy white smoke. I went out to investigate, like an idiot, and found a car on one end of the lot, emitting the whole cloud. The driver was gunning the engine and the smoke was pouring out of the front end. I knocked on the window and asked if he was okay. His response? I topped up my motor oil, but put too much in. Now I have to burn it off. I'm not a car guy, but I'm sure it doesn't work like that. I asked if he wanted to get one of the mechanics to have a look, but he was adamant that this was a perfectly normal, and all would be well once the excess oil was burned off. Soon enough, one of the mechanics from our garage came to investigate. He had a similar conversation with the guy, and then led me away. He told me the white smoke was burning coolant, he'd probably blown a seal, and any minute now. Clang. Silence. The engine seized up. Some have suggested he threw a rod, or even a piston, I don't know. Whatever broke inside, the car left on a flatbed truck. This takes place more than 20 years ago, in an affluent suburban area. I worked as a pump jockey in high school. For those that don't know, it meant that I filled people's gas tanks at the gas station I worked at if they pulled up to the full-service pumps. The full-service pumps were separated from the self-service pumps, off at an angle from the store area. When we saw someone pull up to a full-service pump, we would jog over and take care of pumping their gas, cleaning their windshield, checking their tire pressures and oil, etc. Sometimes people would park near the full-service pumps just because they're out of the way and we didn't have a lot of parking spaces near the store. That is what appeared to be the case on this day. A Jeep Cherokee pulled up in the vicinity of the full-service pumps, but their gas door was on the wrong side and they weren't close enough to the pumps to look like they wanted gas. After a few moments of sitting there, we heard squealing tires. Uh-oh. The Cherokee was racing up to the self-service pumps and then slammed on the brakes, skidding a bit. A young lady, early 20s, jumped out and slammed the door. Jeep lady, if nobody is going to help me then I'll just do it myself. Me, I'm sorry ma'am, I didn't. Jeep lady, it's fine. Less than proceeds to look at a self-service gas pump for what appears to be the first time in her life. Greater than. Me, I'd be happy to help. Jeep lady, I just want to put $20 in, where do I put that $20? Less than waving a $20 bill around. Greater than. Me, if you want to pay cash, you have to pay inside, I'd be happy to take it inside to the cashier for you. Less than if you were paying cash, it was a pump first situation. Our pumps didn't let us set them for a specific amount. Greater than. Jeep lady, less than proceeds to pump a little over $20. Greater than. I asked the cashier if they wanted to go get the rest from her. We laughed and decided that the $20 she had already given us was close enough. And she was already aggravated enough. In all honesty, I should have ran over to see if she needed help when she first pulled up, but based on my experience up until then it really didn't look like she was at the pump. The self-service pumps were substantially less expensive, but I was 100% willing to give her full service at them just to make up for neglecting her at the other pumps. So, I work in a Canadian grocery store chain. I've been working there for quite a while as I got the job young at 14, and I'm currently 18. Because of this, I've started to pick up some extra responsibilities. One of these responsibilities is to receive what we call rush orders. If they go by a different name, or if every place does them since I don't know grocery stores out of my area. In case this isn't a common thing, a rush order is an extra order that we get from a third-party supplier that will come on the same day rather than coming in advance. We have two companies that we get rush orders from. Company A has some issues sometimes, but nothing unusual about the attitude of their truck drivers, but Company B often comes with truck drivers that are really impatient and have intelligence so questionable, that I don't know how they passed any type of interview. This is just usual grocery store stuff though. Some truck drivers are good, some are bad, and one company is worse. Oh well. That was until today when I had a truck driver that screwed up at so many turns, that it made my night watching him get screwed over by his own stupidity. It was a usual day. I came in, my direct manager told me that 2 rush orders were to come in, about the same size and with similar items as yesterday's rush orders. I was a little annoyed because my direct manager overuses rush orders, and gets way too much stuff on them, which is thrown on me as I have to work it, but once again, oh well. Company A comes by around the same time as the day before and goes by completely fine with no issues. Company B comes by a little later than the day before and I don't really care since that is how trucks tend to operate. However, there was a slight issue because another department was currently unloading one of their trucks. Trucks coming in at the same time happen often, and I asked the manager of that department, also was the only manager in at the time, so I will be referring to him as my manager for simplicity, how long he will be unloading his truck, because I still have a 15-minute break that I want to take before I unload my truck. My manager tells me that he estimates it will be 20 minutes, and that if he finishes early, he will just unload my truck for me, and I can get to it when I'm done. So, I take my break. However, I should mention that before I took my break, the driver of Company B asked if he could borrow our pump jack. I've also heard it called a hand jack in case that helps. Edit. A couple comments have pointed out it's also called a pallet jack / because his truck door is broken and isn't opening. In hindsight, I shouldn't have let him use it, or I should have gone with him to use it, but at the time I didn't care, and didn't think anything of it. About 5 minutes into my break, the driver comes back with our pump jack, but there is an issue. His door is still broken, and now our pump jack is too. One side of the pump jack is permanently lifted to barely fit inside of a skid, making the pump jack pretty much useless. After seeing this, I realize it's one of those drivers, and pause the timer I have for my break to go get the story on what's going on. I go out with the driver to look at his truck and how the door won't work, and I don't know why he thought a pump jack would work, but it didn't. The driver asked me about nearby mechanics, and I gave him a time he would need to be back by for me to have time to manage it. The driver leaves, and I go give the update to my manager. My manager is pissed at the driver, and tells me that if he comes back, to get his name. I finish my break, and work along as normal till an hour and a bit later, when the driver comes back. As I hear the beeping of the truck backing up, I know that this is going to be good. While I wouldn't mind getting a name myself, I thought it may be better for me to make sure everything is done right, so I let my manager know that he is back, and we go to receive the truck. My manager starts questioning the driver and is trying to get him to write down his name and company, which the driver is plain dumb about breaking our jack, until my manager says to write it down or he will call their company's dispatch, and that he's only asking since it makes both of their lives easier, and the driver writes it down. So, we start prepping to receive, and luckily, for some random reason, the driver has a pump jack in his truck, and since my manager has his own job to do, he leaves me to do the unloading. Of course, our single skid of supplies was at the back of the truck, blocked off by several other skids. Normally, I would be annoyed, but at this point, I'm not in any rush to get things done, and this is really funny to watch, so I'm actually kind of glad that I get to see more. A montage of me trying to unload the truck, and the truck driver constantly getting in the way and wasting time. Multiple times I would explain that I have to do things a little differently than he wants, and he would give me a look like I didn't know what I was doing. He would try to do it himself, and proceed to try it, only to realize that I was right. Even with my little experience and slight struggle with driving a jack, I probably could have unloaded the truck in half the time, but if he wants to treat me like I don't know what I'm doing, then I'll absolutely take the free show and watch the truck unloading equivalent of fitting a square peg into a circle hole. After a decently long process, I'm finally able to get the truck properly unloaded. I start cleaning up the area and go through my mental checklist of everything I need to do before a driver leaves. As I'm doing this, the driver gets back in his truck and is about to leave. I realize that I never signed or got a store copy of the invoice for our order. I turn my manager just beside me and ask, "Did you sign the invoice?" He had not. This means that the proof of purchase does not exist, meaning we could just say we didn't receive your order, and they have no way of forcing our company to pay. I highly doubt we would do this though, since it would cause more work on our end, and burn a bridge that we don't need to burn. But the idea of the driver realizing that he forgot what is one of the most important parts of his job makes me laugh inside, and I do hope that whoever calls them about our jack gives them a little scare about it, but once again, I don't think that will come about. The final little icing on top, however, is when my manager is annoyed at the attitude he showed, so before the driver left, he fully closed the back door of the truck. Hope that driver liked his trip to the mechanic to open his door, because he will likely need another one. After the driver left, it was pretty uneventful. I made a custom invoice so we could have a record of what came in. I worked through the rush order, and made sure to let in the fun to story, heavily summarized, to my co-workers, including a less summarized version to my direct manager to keep him in the know-how. I think this is all from my entertaining tale, but if I hear anything more from it, I will be sure to update. THX for reading my first retail encounter that was good enough to share.